Hi, everybody. Just want to say a few words about Andy and my experiences with him. And the first thing is really the big picture is that every time I came in contact with Andy over the years, and we're looking at many, many years, I guess I can't remember, I can't figure out exactly, but it's probably 40 years or so. Every time it was like a feeling of recognition, feeling of ease, and there was always a smile in his face when he saw me that was like, oh, what are you up to now? What fun will we have together, And so it's just always a very easy, fun time. And I flew with Andy many, many times, so I spent lots of time in Kluane, waiting for weather, chatting to Andy, pushing, hey, no, it's good enough, and him smiling and laughing and being very much at ease in giving news that we were not wanting to hear, particularly. And then also, so that was in the Kluane time, and then when I started Adventure Network, the company that developed in Antarctica, Andy was one of the first people I went to because he'd spent time in Antarctica. And he knew about planes. Obviously, he knew about planes, right? So asking him, about Antarctica details, and then as I gathered information, I'd meet back with Andy and I'd chat, and he filled out a vast amount of knowledge for me about Antarctica. And so then, once we started the business and the expeditions, when we now were bringing down our first fixed-wheel plane, which was a DC-4, transcontinental plane to land on a nice runway, I needed somebody to set up a camp there. And the camp would hold about 40 people. And so I went to Andy and asked him to become the camp manager. We brought various people from the Yukon, some of whom are probably listening to this now, down to run the camp. And it ended up being this epic time where the team got there, 600 miles from the South Pole. The planes had major problems. They were stuck there for a long time, about a month or so. Meanwhile, all the reports I got back from the camp was, yeah, we're having a great time. Just you figure out what you need to do. Your end, we're having a great time over here. And then, again, more time when expeditions were coming in and out. Andy was back in Punta Arenas, and he and I would often go out late nights or dancing. No particular huge amount of alcohol consumption, just hanging out, dancing, and enjoying life, just goofing around. And so, Andy for me has been this wonderful inspiration, this massive character, this calmness, this fun, and also he can be incredibly clear. So I remember one time we were flying out of a Mount Logan climb, and one of my clients afterwards, at the time, I knew he was difficult. Later I discovered he had paranoid schizophrenia. And so as we were flying out, we'd been waiting for some days. Andy comes in, we load 2 people in the plane's about to take off. This client runs, opens the back door, and dives in on top of all the gear, right? So the plane comes to a halt, or stop. Andy turns off the engine. He pulls out a huge wrench and walks around, opens the side door, pulls the guy out and puts the wrench in his face and says, "Don't do that again." And Andy's, command and power was just so obvious that this guy who was super used to manipulating situations had no answer and slunk off, and the plane took off, and finally we got everybody out of there. So a similar thing also happened in Antarctica. Again, we had somebody who was mentally unstable and who was trying to get at the radios so he could radio out and send an emergency message for rescue to the US military, basically. And so again, Andy took control of the whole situation. He slept with the radio. He made sure that this guy had no room to maneuver, and yet he handled him extremely deftly so that it wouldn't blow up in our faces too much. So both this charm, this character, but also this clarity and this decisiveness of what was possible, what wasn't possible, is some of the things I remember about Andy. So for everybody watching this, thanks so much. And again, you know, Andy, just love you and thanks again. And we'll be in contact in the other worlds. Thanks. Goodbye.